Hey, it's Jared. I like to help photographers turn their passion into a side hustle or a full-time business. And in this video, we're going to talk about 5 things that you need to know in order to be a professional photographer. Now, it seems pretty simple. If you know your camera well and you take good pictures, you're a professional photographer. But that's not really the case. You really are a professional when you're providing a service to someone and delivering on that service in a professional manner. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things that I've identified that have helped me as a professional photographer. And the first is just to be responsive with your camera, understand your camera, know the features and settings of your camera, and then as a photographer, always be willing and ready to capture anything that's going on around you. That means being ready for environmental changes, things that are taking place around you, and capturing even outside of the original intended thing that you were there to capture. Because sometimes things are happening and those are opportunities, and some of the images that my clients love the most are images that I captured that weren't really expected. And so I'm always being responsive and adapting so that I'm ready to capture any moment at any given time. Even if I'm set up for something else, if there's an opportunity, I don't mind grabbing my camera and capturing that. I'm being responsive for the client, and that's the kind of thing that sets me apart from other people. So now we're going to jump into the things that really just make you an actual professional as a photographer, to where people look at you as not just a photographer, but as a person who delivers a great product. Number 2 is how to communicate. That's something that you really have to know as a photographer. And you'd think, well, I like photography because I'm an introvert and it allows me to be behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. I know I've used that joke a lot with people, like, I prefer to be back here. But you really do need to know how to communicate. You need to know how to communicate when you're capturing people. When I'm shooting weddings, and when I've done a lot of weddings in the past, like, I had to put on my extrovert pants and get out there and be loud and be funny and build fast relationships with people so that they trust me as I'm taking their pictures, and really just change my own personality a little bit, which was draining, so that I can capture great images of them. But, you know, you'd think, okay, well, I don't want to be a wedding photographer. I want to just capture landscapes or things, take pictures of products or stuff like that. Well, you still have to be able to tell a story. You are communicating that way through the images that you're creating. And so as you set up a scene and you're deciding how you're going to crop this and what lighting you're going to use and stuff like that, you're communicating in that way. And so communication really takes place there as well. And that communication takes place behind the camera. Now, the third form of communication is following up. Like, it's extremely important that you follow up with people as a business owner, as somebody who is receiving inquiries from people. People are expecting you to deliver on a service or something that you've put out there to the world. And so following up is extremely important. When somebody sends an email, respond quickly. When somebody calls you, respond quickly. Make sure that you're following up fast and setting that expectation that people know that you're going to get back to them quickly. And then the last part of that communication is really just following through. I don't know how many times I've heard stories of from clients that came to me because they had an experience with a photographer in the past that did not respond after taking the pictures. It's been months. It's been, almost a year since they've gotten their actual images. That's just I don't even have words for it. Like, if you're gonna take money from somebody, you need to see it through from start to finish. From showing up and capturing the images to going back, editing them and delivering them in a way that makes that entire process good for the person on the other end. They paid you for a service, and communication starts from that first point in which they contact you all the way through to when you deliver the final deliverable, which is their images. And then communication really continues on from there as well, because you should be doing things like asking for them to write a review of how your services were. You should be asking them for referrals. You should be following up with them later to see if there's another opportunity for you to capture more images for them. So communication is a huge part of photography, both behind the camera and when you're in the business mode of photography as a professional. Number 3 is to just have basic business knowledge. I didn't go to business school, I didn't go to photography school, I didn't go to where those two things meet in the middle. I learned because I needed a way for people to pay me. I realized that I needed contracts for people to sign. I needed to do my taxes. I needed to have my taxes done. There's bookkeeping, there's balancing personal and business expenses and what's a write-off versus what's not. And so while I don't need to know all of those things, because personally I hire an accountant to handle most of those things for me, I do need to know what to look out for. In all of the years that I've been in business for myself, which is over 20 years now, I have yet to have an accountant that really is proactively thinking for me and is coming to me with opportunities. I have to bring the opportunities to the accountants. It's very rare that you're going to find an accountant or a bookkeeper that's really going to be outgoing and thinking outside of the box for you. And so you need to have basic business knowledge and really be tied into what other people are doing in your industry so that you know how to expense things, so that you know how to make new purchases and whether or not you should buy that camera before the end of the year or wait until next year. There's just things that you probably should research and figure out. But probably the best thing that you could do is really just to do your research and perhaps even, if you get lucky, find somebody who has some knowledge in that area. They may be an accountant, they may be a bookkeeper, or they might just be somebody who researches that stuff and shares that information on the web. But I think it's important to have basic business knowledge because otherwise you get bogged down on things. You're not prepared for your quarterly taxes if you're here in the US, and those things end up kind of shuttering your business because they get you bogged down and they take the passion for photography away when you let yourself get too far beyond those responsibilities. Number 4 is how to market yourself. As a photographer, you need to market yourself. You need to communicate what you are trying to get across to people, which is that they can hire you to capture A, B, or C. And marketing is a huge part of that. These days, social media is beautiful images and video all across it. And so how do we stick out? Well, you have to tell a story and you have to explain that you are a storyteller and that you can use your camera in order to do that for people. And it can be tricky to get noticed because if you're just going to post images and say, oh, here's an image that I took last week while working for this client or whatever, that's not really getting people excited. It's not communicating that you are a professional photographer and that you have services that are available and that people should pay you for them. You need to be able to convey that. And so what I recommend you do is look and see what other photographers are doing, what they're posting and sharing and how they're communicating and how that makes you feel. Kind of take off your photographer shoes for a moment and sit down as if you're going to hire a photographer. And how are these people communicating? Are they making you excited for what it is that they capture? Are you seeing the work that they're creating and are excited to hire that person as a photographer? If you're not, then you probably shouldn't follow what they're doing. You should try and craft something for yourself. And you definitely don't want to copy what other people are doing, but you want to look and see what other people are doing so you can gain inspiration from that and craft your own kind of way of communicating the services that you're offering as a photographer. If we're just kind of sitting back and waiting for people to bring business to us, it's probably never going to happen. And that's what a lot of people do. You have to go after the business and you have to do that in various forms of marketing. In another video where I talked about how to create a side hustle out of photography, I gave some examples of ways to get plugged in and network and get clients. So if you're on the beginning side of all of this, trying to decide how do I take my love for photography and turn it into a side hustle or turn it into a full-time business, then you should check out that video because there's some thoughts and tips that I have there. And I'm going to be pouring a lot more into that as well as I try to get everything that I've done over the years as a photographer out into the world through YouTube. So marketing yourself is extremely important. If you're not marketing yourself, nobody is finding you, and there's going to be no chance for you to be a professional photographer in the first place. The 5th thing is to stay motivated. One of the things that I think a lot of photographers fall prey to is being excited to take pictures and then not being excited or prepared to do everything else that comes along with being a professional photographer. Staying motivated means setting yourself up for success so that you can accomplish all the things that you need to accomplish in order to be a professional photographer. And that goes beyond grabbing your camera and heading out and taking a bunch of pictures and then going home or going back to your office and then that stops. Like, you have to go beyond that. You have to come back and edit those photos and edit them in a way where you're proud of them and deliver those photos in a way that makes the person feel like they're getting something premium. You know, whether that's using a web service or a tool, or, you know, it varies for me. Sometimes I send them a Lightroom library. Other times I send them a Dropbox folder. And then sometimes I put a nice gallery together for them as well. It just depends on the type of photography and what people are probably expecting based on the type of photography that you did for them. So go beyond that. And if you have to set up a structure for yourself so that you follow this and stay motivated and complete the job from start to finish, because maybe you're prone to procrastination at certain stages, do that so that way you don't drop the ball somewhere and end up disappointing a customer or a client because you didn't deliver on the expectations that they had. Setting clear expectations is also important. Every single time I take pictures, I used to get asked, well, how long until I have the pictures? Well, now I set that standard before they even ask me the question, because they probably have some thought in their mind, and I will put out there what they can expect before they even have an opportunity to ask. If I'm a little busy, kind of backed up, I will ask them sometimes, you know, what's a realistic expectation from you? And sometimes they'll say, oh, you know, 2-3 weeks. And maybe I was hoping that they would say a week. And so when they set that 2 or 3 week expectation and I say 1 week, then they're pretty excited that they're going to get them back even sooner. And I still feel like I've got a good runway of time in order to deliver them the images. And so staying motivated is part of that process. Nothing is more demotivating than having frustrated clients or customers and getting to the point where people are irritated, because that is demotivating. It doesn't make me necessarily excited to do more work. It makes me want to backpedal or maybe find something else to do. I prefer to keep myself motivated the entire way through the process so that I have a happy client on the other side and I'm able to ask them for more work or referrals in the future. So if you're looking to get into photography, whether to start it as a side hustle business or move into a full-time position as a photographer, I've got a free course I'd love for you to check out. Use the link down in the description below to get access to that. It's going to give you a quick breakdown on all the things that I think are important that you need to set up in order to go full-time. Everything from some of the things that you need to understand as a photographer all the way to the business end of things and the things that you need to set up in order to make sure that you can get paid, that you can email market and stuff like that. So definitely go down to the link in the description below and sign up so that you can get access to that free course. Make sure to click thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel to be notified when I put out new videos. But that's going to do it for now. I hope to see you over in that free course linked down below. Take care.